And now we come to Katherine Read. Katherine is a third-year medical student who has made the arduous journey here from where she studies at Imperial College London. The main thing she attributes to her 3 years of medicine is a newfound understanding of just how weird humans are. When she's not on the ward, she can be found in the Imperial Sci-Fi Society's library, where she continues to discover how weird humans can be. Ladies and gentlemen, Katherine Read!
Good evening. That actually wasn't the joke. Before I begin, I'd like you to take a moment to imagine a scrawny, repulsive specimen of an animal. Maybe something with patchy hair, fragile skin, and feeble muscles. Such an animal might look something like this. This is exactly what natural selection was designed to sift out of our population. So how on earth have humans survived? There is no logical reason for our distant ancestors to have decided to spend a romantic evening with the predecessor of something as supremely unappealing as a human, when they could have gone for the strapping young primates that gave way to the chimpanzee. Some people have proposed that we were selected for our intelligence. They argue that our larger skulls and better developed brains let us fashion tools and perfect skills that eventually rendered our physical strength, in fact, irrelevant. But while this may ease our own inferiority complex, the genetic record simply does not bear out. Ugliness predates intelligence. This is well illustrated by existing studies, which have found that the mutation in the MYH16 gene that led to our phenomenally useless, weak jaw muscles preceded the development of the first of our SRGAP2 gene replicates, which are responsible for our increased cortical development, by an estimated 2 million years. We are forced to conclude that ugliness drove intelligence, and not the other way round. But how could physical inadequacy be an evolutionary advantage? The answer I'd like to propose to you today is actually surprisingly simple. Humans became unattractive to escape venereal disease. Those who are attractive enough to find more than one potential partner, particularly the lucky few who are attractive enough to be chosen even by a partner with other options, are at a higher risk of infections by pathogens like chlamydia trachomatis and Neisseria gonorrhoeae, which can leave them infertile, unwell, or deceased. On the other side of the spectrum, pairs who only manage to mate with each other are protected. We can split a species into 4 groups by their aesthetic appeal: the super attractive, the moderately attractive, the unattractive, and the subattractive. So, normally, as you can see here, we'd expect reproductive success to increase along with beauty, but the potential to contract a venereal disease changes this pattern dramatically. I have had some difficulty in persuading an ethics panel to let me rank a test population by beauty and then introduce gonorrhea into their midst. But I've modelled what I think might have happened and what I believe happened millions of years into our past here. So, as in the previous scenario, the least attractive group still failed to mate often enough to maintain their population. But on the other side of the spectrum, the most attractive group finds so many partners that they basically have to resign themselves to venereal infection being a fact of life. But they're so prolific that they manage to pass on their genes to the next generation before the disease even takes hold, albeit with a more tightly controlled population size. So the point where we really start to see a difference is in the moderately attractive group. They find enough partners that they're likely to contract infections, but in their case, the lower rate of mating means the diseases kill or sterilize them before they manage to reproduce. I'd actually like to posit that this was the fate of our better-looking cousins, the Neanderthals. And actually, some studies do suggest that not only were Neanderthals responsible for introducing HPV into the human population, but the diseases they contracted in turn may have played a role in their own extinction. The final group, the unattractive, is the one into which our distant predecessors fell. They fell into an evolutionary sweet spot where they mated just about enough to maintain a population, but still infrequently enough to mostly avoid venereal disease. So since the populations of the less hideous primates were controlled by infection, we managed to flourish where we should rightly have died out. Once the two surviving groups were distinguished, they developed in a predictable pattern. Humans, as the offspring of a group of aesthetically inadequate rejects, lived long lives unhindered by venereal disease, while chimpanzees had to evolve to cope with it. Young chimpanzees had to mature quickly before their parents were incapacitated by disease. But for the unattractive, on the other hand, a longer period of development was crucial, most likely to give young humans the chance to slowly, gently come to terms with their own repugnancy. Of course, humans had to become intelligent enough to produce things like art, poetry, and science if they wanted to fool each other into finding themselves remotely palatable. But their newfound capacity for self-awareness could easily have driven early humans to the brink of insanity. Luckily, instead, this intelligence was funneled into vital innovations like knives, spears, cosmetic enhancement. And lastly, while humans remained sensitive to venereal disease, chimpanzees had to become better able to resist it. And it turns out that they've actually sped up their immune systems as a way to deal with their chronic good looks. The beauty kills hypothesis even offers a few explanations for quirks of human nature, like the urge to dump a partner who cheats on you as swiftly and brutally as possible. This can only be the evolutionary result of millions of years of infection control. And we've all experienced that feeling of intimidation when someone is just too attractive. Simply put, when you see a pretty human, you fear them because you think they're probably from a different species. I'd like to leave you with one final thought. Modern medicine has managed to stem the tidal wave of venereal infection for now. But with the looming threat of the antibiotic resistance crisis, our population may be on the verge of fracturing into the weak and the strong once more. Thank you.